All right, so from here, let's go ahead and bring those hands in a clasp behind the neck. All right, and we'll take a cat-cow with this clasp. And what it looks like is we'll inhale, rock forward on the sitting bones as you perhaps tilt the forehead up toward the ceiling, widening the elbows. And then as you exhale, round forward, bringing the elbows toward one another. And then once again, inhaling, opening up those elbows, maybe looking up, that arching action. And then as you exhale, round, gently bring those elbows forward. So continue flowing with your breath, the inhale to arch, the exhale to round. And I had a yoga teacher once who sort of likened this cat-cow move to riding a camel. So if you're a visual person, you can imagine that you're riding a camel across the desert here by rocking forward and back on the sitting bones in a gentle manner. About one more inhale. And then one more exhale. And then we'll sit up tall, release the hands, just give everything a little shake, a little wiggle again. And then we'll start by just resting those hands on the thighs again. And what we're going to do now is what I call the Sufi grind. So it's essentially taking the shoulders, the shoulder girdle around the pelvic girdle. So inhaling as you come forward, exhaling as you come back, just kind of waking up the side body again a little bit. And you can use those hands on your thighs to give you a little more movement if you'd like it, or to brace yourself if the movement isn't all that easy, right? So inhaling forward, exhaling back. Let's go forward one more time and then pause. We're going to take it the opposite way now. So again, inhaling forward, exhaling back, just rolling the shoulders in a circle above the pelvic girdle. This one might look a little funny if you're in an office setting, but hopefully you have a cubicle. How about one more circle around in this direction, and then find that space where we're sitting in our seated mountain. So the shoulders are over the hips are in line with the knees are over the ankles. You've got your toes pointing forward. There's this nice lift to the spine. Just coming back to that mountain pose for a moment. All right, we're going to go ahead now and just grab hold of one knee. Doesn't matter which one. You're going to hug the knee upward, and you're just going to begin to circle the ankle here a few times in one direction, and then circle the ankle in the opposite direction. And then we'll go ahead and support that knee as we circle that knee sort of up, out, down, and across. The circles can be big, they can be small, they can be slow or fast. I'm a big advocate of slow these days. I find slow sometimes is harder. And then the next time you come up, I want you to reverse those circles. So what I tell all my yoga students is that motion is lotion. So when we get stuck sitting, our joints start to dry out a little bit, and it makes it more difficult to move. How about one more circle around in this direction? We'll place that foot down. Coming back to your seated mountain, we'll go to the other leg now. So drawing that knee in as you sit up tall, no round spines here. And then just begin to circle the ankle. Anybody hear any snaps, crackles, and pops? The music of the body. Take it the other way with those ankle circles. And then pause here. We're going to change it up. If you need a little help, this other arm can hold on to the bottom of the chair or the chair leg. We'll circle that knee out, down, across, and up. If you don't need to hold on to the knee, don't worry about it. But if you do, again, don't worry about it. You do what you need to do for you. You honor the body you brought with you today. And then let's take it around the other way. And then we'll let that go. All right, so we're going to stretch the legs a little bit more here. And I may change sides so you can see me a little better. But the first thing we're going to do here is you're going to hold on to the bottom of your chair. Hopefully nobody has a chair with rollers. And you'll just dig out through one leg. And when I say dig out, drag the heel forward, pointing the toe of that foot up toward the ceiling. Still sitting up tall. And make sure that this other leg hasn't moved. It's stable. You've got your right angles happening here. Now, by pointing the toe up and digging out through the heel, you'll feel a stretch on the back of the leg. You could make this more intense by moving the hands to the back of the chair and bowing forward slightly. And then your chest gets a nice stretch too. If you wanted, you could even clasp the hands together and reach those knuckles behind you, but only if that's available. Don't stress about it. So we're just gazing at our toes, admiring our wonderful feet that do so much for us. So many bones in those beautiful feet. And then let's go ahead and release the clasp if you've taken that. Now, keeping the leg where it is for a moment, putting the hands back on the chair, can you set your foot down completely flat? You may need to move that heel back in towards you a little bit closer. This stretches that shin and ankle area, a stretch we don't often get any other way. And then you could tap that foot left to right, right to left, just kind of waking it up a little bit more. And then coming back to the center, sliding that foot in. Now this time, rather than lining up that foot with the other one, bring the foot back a little bit closer in. So I have a staggered foot situation. Root into those feet, compact the hips. Just see if you feel any changes there. It's a very subtle move. And then go ahead and step that foot forward again, making sure the toes are lined up. Let's do it all over on the other side. So holding onto your chair seat bottom, we'll dig that other heel out. Toes point up toward the ceiling. Shoulders over hips to start. Just enjoy this gentle stretch along the back of that leg. And then if you want a little bit more, you could walk the hands up the back of the chair and hinge from the hips. So we're trying to make kind of like a V shape with the body here. So we're not really rounding. We're keeping the shoulders out of the ears. Think about those collarbones smiling, right? Head in line with the neck, maybe gazing at the toes. You can close your eyes here if you'd like, or keep them open. Totally fine with me, whatever you choose to do. Next inhalation, we're going to sit upright again with our torso. Set that foot down. So remember, the foot might need to scoot back slightly to allow that. Just enjoy pressing that foot lightly into the floor, getting into the ankle and the shin area. And then when you're ready, you could tap your foot left to right, right to left, just giving it a little more love, waking it up. Remember, motion is lotion. And then we'll slide that foot in, bring that heel back a little closer to the chair for a moment. Find that sweet spot where you feel a little bit of a stretch almost in the glutes and in the knee area a little bit. You're compacting the hips, you're pressing lightly into the feet. And then we'll take that foot back up to meet the other one. All right, so if you have shoes on, that is great. If you don't have shoes on, that is also great. I'm going to show you a fun option if you have people who don't have their shoes on. In an office, that's kind of tricky to do sometimes. So once again, you're going to grab hold of the knee. You're going to support that knee and that ankle, cross it over the opposite thigh. All right. Now, if you can't do that, or if you have students that can't do that, you can just cross at the ankle. That's perfectly fine. Okay. So just do what you can do there. Now, if you don't have shoes on, one of the things I like to do is I like to put my fingers between my toes, not all the way down into the webbing if you don't do this regularly. But if you do this regularly, that's okay to do that. You could circle the ankle here again with the fingers between the toes. You could take it both directions. I'm sharing this with you because people who have bunions, this is a good thing to do. All right. And then we'll move on from that. Make sure that foot is flexed. You don't want it being floppy because you want to protect the knee. If that foot is flexed, it helps to protect that knee. Perfectly fine to stay upright here. If you want more intensity, you could come forward, stacking the forearms or the palms over one another. And that is a more intense outer hip stretch. You could even drape your chest over that shin and let the arms and head hang. That's really intense. You have to work with who's in the room taking your class and give them options. And then wherever you are, you're going to slowly come back up. Support that knee, that ankle, set the foot down, pause for just a moment, and let's do it on the other side. So you'll grab hold of the back of that leg, then the knee, the ankle, cross it over the opposite thigh, and you'll notice differences anatomically. Like on this side, my knee's much higher than it was on the other side. Again, you just work with what is, and maybe start with that fingers between the toes situation, circling the ankle. Make sure you take those circles in both directions. Gentle, gentle. And then foot is flexed. You decide if you want to stay upright. This is a nice variation for pigeon, for people who don't want to be on their belly, on the mat, on the floor, pressing all that weight on the knee. Then if you want a little bit more, you could bring those forearms to that inner calf. Just increasing the intensity. No holding the breath. You could fold forward if that's your jam. Once again, slowly bring your hands to your thigh or ankle as you come upright. Support that knee, that ankle as you unwind that. And what I'm going to suggest here is that you might bring your hands to the bottom of your chair again, or the seat bottom rather. Take the feet a little bit wider. And then you can start to kind of windshield wiper those knees from left to right, right to left. Just in case there's been any tension that's developed in the low back at all. And then come on back to your seated mountain for a moment. And then let's bring our hands behind our back, almost like you're going to put your hands in your back pockets of your pants, right? Fingers pointing down, maybe, if you can get them there. Roll the shoulders away from the ears as you draw the elbows toward one another. So some of what we see when we sit at a desk all the time is the hunch, the slouch, right? So this is a great pose for getting rid of that. You could tilt your chin up toward the ceiling if that's available to you, but maybe it's not. And then let's just lower that chin again. Bring the hands back to the thighs for a moment. And let's take a twist. So what I like in a chair like this is that I can turn to the side. And I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to frame the back of the chair here. So one hand on either side. Then I'm going to pull with one hand and push with the other as I turn my nose toward the back of the room. Now, what happens in this often is that one knee will creep out in front of the other. So what I like to do, if I have a yoga block, is I like to put it between my knees so that my knees squeeze together, and that helps to avoid that. Hands on the back of the chair, we twist. As we sit up taller, we inhale. And as we deepen our twist, we might exhale a bit. And then we'll slowly come around to face the front. I'm going to ditch the block for a moment. Come back around. Let's take that twist to the other side. And then we'll just take the hands to the back of the chair again. And remember, we're going to pull ourselves toward the back of the chair with one hand, pushing with the other hand to stabilize, checking out our knees, making sure they're even if possible. Still zippering up the belly. Still working to stack the shoulders over the hips. And then we'll slowly rest the hands on the knees, taking a moment here. And then coming around to face the front. So I would do these poses probably 2 or 3 times if I could with you, but because of time limitations, I'm just giving you a little taste of it. One thing I did want to mention is we're all different heights, right? So if you have a person in your class or at your place of work that is maybe a little shorter and their feet don't reach the floor, if you have books or blocks or reams of paper, you can put blocks underneath their feet so that the knees could be more in line with the hips. All right. So something I like to share. Not everybody's the same height. All right. So from here, let's inhale the arms up. Bring the palms together. Interlace the fingers. Push the palms up toward the ceiling. Now let's exaggerate here. Take those shoulders up into the ears again. Oh yeah. And then slide those wings down the back. Continue to stack the shoulders over the hips, zippering up the belly. Chin is parallel to the floor. Everything's active. And then we'll release. Give those hands a little wiggle. All right, let's take the arms out to the sides. And I don't really care which elbow you cross over the other one, but let's start with a little hug here first. All right, see if you can keep the elbows lifted somewhat. And maybe you crawl the hands around the shoulder blades, but maybe you don't. All right, You do what you can do today. Now, once you've got a comfortable position, there's a stretch, but it's not too far beyond your capacity. See if you can start to circle those elbows. And maybe the circle gets a little bigger, maybe it gets a little faster, maybe you slow it down, maybe it's a small circle. And then we're going to come back to the center. Unwind the arms. Let's take the other elbow on top this time. And we'll start with that hug again. That's really nice for most of us. And just stay here with it if that feels good to you. And then we might take those circles in the opposite direction here. So taking it up, out to the side, down toward the thighs, out to the other side. Release all that, give everything a little wiggle. We'll take the arms back up overhead. Now remember the way you normally clasp your hands. Do it the opposite way, the funky way, the weird way, with the opposite thumb on top, right? And then we'll push those palms up to the ceiling again. Let's exaggerate the shoulders and the ears for a moment, and then we'll slide them back down. Breathing. And let's take a tiny little twist here as well. We can twist to look one direction, being careful that the knees don't follow your gaze. And then we'll turn forward and we'll twist to go the opposite direction. Again, maybe checking out those knees, making sure they're level and even. And then come forward, release all that, give the hands and arms another little wiggle. Let's bring the arms out to the sides again, and we'll cross one elbow over the other. Now you might be able to do a single wrap. You might have to go back to the hug. If you can do a double wrap, give it a whirl. Again, we're going to try to line up those elbows with the chin if we've got a wrap going on. And we're going to try to take the forearms forward slightly if we've got that wrap going on. And then from here, you might inhale, take the elbows up toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, we might bow forward slightly. Again, this can be done with that little self-hug. Go slowly at your own pace. I'd rather have you do one or two really good ones than, 8 or 10 bad ones. When you finish that last one, just unwind the arms. Give yourself a little seaweed action here maybe, or a little shake, whatever feels good. We got one more side to go with this. So cross the opposite elbow over. Remember, hug, single wrap or double wrap. Lifting the elbows up slightly, forearms come forward slightly. You could stay right here if you wanted. Then we might start to arch the spine as we take the elbows up. That's the inhale. And we may start to round the spine as we take the elbows forward. That's the exhale. So inhaling to arch. Exhaling to round, continuing to do all this. I'm just going to make sure that I've got all the things, everybody checked in here that needs to be checked in. Okay, good deal. And then when you finish all that, just come on back to the center again and just pause. So I'm sure some of you are wondering about downward facing dog, right? Because that's a big part of a typical yoga practice. So we can do downward facing dog a couple of ways. And here goes the heat. So let's hope you can hear me still. So you can stand up. You could walk over to your desk if you happen to have one, right? And then you could walk back, finding this sort of L shape with your body, right? So you line up your ears with your upper arms, you're working towards straight legs, but you can have a bend, right? And you're kind of gazing straight out. No strain in the neck, not letting the head hang or not dumping in the back, that nice zippered up belly. So that's one way. I'm gonna walk toward my desk. You could take your chair, a couple different ways with the chair here as well, is I could come over to my chair, put my hands at the front edge of the chair. Same thing, walk the legs back. And then I've got a little bit lower of a downward facing dog here. That's a way to do that. You can also come to the back of your chair, right here. Same thing. You'll just see that there's lots of different ways to squeeze these postures into the work environment. And then we'll stand up. So another great thing about your chair, might as well stand up while we can, right? So standing to the side of your chair, lightly touching the chair if you need to, if your balance isn't great. We're going to root into the foot of the leg that's closest to the chair. Bend that other knee, the one that's outside. Can you reach back with that same side hand, grabbing hold of the toes of your shoes or the top of your foot, wherever you can grab? Maybe you need both hands. But trying to keep those inner thighs close to one another with the knee reaching toward the floor and that heel moving in the direction of the buttock. It may not get there today. And then we'll release that. It's a nice quad stretch. Let's go over to the other side of the chair. Again, hand lightly resting on the chair if your balance needs an assist. Rooting into this leg that's closest to the chair. Bending that outside knee, reaching back, grabbing hold of the foot. Now, I have people in my group classes that can't grab their foot. So I tell them to get a strap and lasso their foot. And then that way they can have a little more of the experience of that quad stretch. All right, it's quite nice. So turn to the side here. A necktie or a towel or even a t-shirt would work for that as well. So keeping those inner thighs close, the knees close, the knee reaching down toward the floor. And then we'll release that. So a couple different ways you can do some standing warrior poses if you're in an office situation. The way I like to teach it, just in case there could be a weight issue or a pregnancy issue, is I like to teach it from the chair seat, but we can do it standing behind the chair as well. So what I would do is I would open a knee out. I take my hand to the back of the chair and I'd start by bending this front knee toward the floor, right? And I can walk that foot back a little to get a bit of a quad stretch here, okay? Then I could push into both feet and lift off and imagine scissoring those legs together, compacting the hips. I could take this front arm up. If I've got good balance, I could take the other arm up. So we've got this nice lunge position here. And then to come down, I'm going to find the chair. I'm going to lower down, right? You could seal that back foot down for the warrior two as well, and then open out. Yeah, not so hard. You could move into extended side angle as well. Or even straightening the leg, triangle. And then lifting up, hands to the hips, parallel to feet, We'll sit down again in the chair for a moment. Same thing on the other side. So opening that knee out, taking that front knee toward the floor for a moment, holding onto the back of the chair, and then maybe walking that foot back a little bit, right? So you feel that yummy stretch in the hip flexors. Hip flexors get super tight if you're sitting all day. All right, and then when you're ready, you root into those feet, you lift the bum up and away from the chair. Maybe this front arm goes up, maybe the other arm joins it. If you want to make it a true warrior two as opposed to a lunge, you can seal the back foot down. You could open up the heart, extend the arms. You could rest that front elbow on that thigh and extend the arm up and over. Try not to collapse here, lengthening. And then inhaling back up, we can straighten that front leg, crawling that foot out just a bit, and then finding your triangle. Ah, feels good, doesn't it? And then top hand to the hip again, bend that bottom knee, come to find your chair. All right, now I'm going to try to tell you how to do this posture and show you as well. It might be a little difficult to see, so I'll probably turn to the side, but a lot of times at the end of yoga class, you'll do a happy baby pose, right? And it's a nice release for a lot of people. But the way you can do it if you're in an office, because it would be kind of weird in an office to do a happy baby, not gonna lie. All right, is you can take your feet outside your chair. So see how I've got the arch of my foot lined up with the legs of the chair. So I'm way back in the chair. I could bring my hands right here first. So now I'm kind of sitting like a cowgirl a little bit, right? Then I'm going to bring my fingertips to the floor. Then I'm going to bow forward. I could reach my hands underneath the chair and grab the back of the legs there. And then I get this nice stretch in my back. I'm going to turn my chair around so maybe you can see a little bit better where my hands are. So hands reach for the back of the chair. I've got very long arms, so it's easy for me to reach these. If you can't reach it, don't stress about it. You can just keep your hands on the floor. But I try to keep my tushy sealed to the chair seat bottom so that I get that yummy stretch in my low back. It's kind of like a squat without the squat. Yeah. All right. So what I would do next here is I would move into Shavasana. So it's just like what we did at the beginning of the class where we scooted back in the chair. We have a much more relaxed posture. Hands could be down or open. And you could close your eyes, allowing that chin to drift toward the chest. So we'd stay here for a few moments, just allowing this seated Shavasana to seal in the benefits of our practice. Returning to normal, relaxed breathing. That smooth brow, that soft jaw, that loose tongue. And then bringing the hands maybe to the chair seat bottom as you sit yourself up a little bit taller, scooting towards the front edge of the chair again. And we'll bring our hands together at our heart and just kind of rub our hands together. Rub, 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 rub. And then we could take the heels of our hands to our eye sockets and just keeping the eyes closed, just stay here for a moment. Eyes closed, hands warming the eyes. You could bow the chin again. And then we'll bring those hands to the heart center, bowing the chin toward the fingertips. And then slowly float the chin up and let the eyes open. All right, so there was a lot of stuff that we did not get to today, and I apologize. I have a zillion things that we could do. Unfortunately, there's not enough time in an hour to get to it all. So let me pull up the PowerPoint that I have, and we will see if there's anything that I sort of missed in this discussion. And come on. All right, so I see the PowerPoint. So basically, I'll send all this to you. You'll be able to read through it. And if you have questions, you'll have my email address. So you can email me directly if you would like. But basically, I talk a little bit about what happens to your body when you sit at a desk all day. And then there's a discussion of what is yoga, and then the benefits of yoga, and then why to practice yoga at your desk. And then the whole sequence essentially that I taught is in the PowerPoint presentation. And then there's some references, and then a way for you to contact me at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. So I think it's my email address. So let's just, I'm going to go through this attendance list again really quickly to make sure I haven't missed anybody. But I'm going to suggest that maybe we all unmute ourselves, I will unmute you, and then you can ask some quick questions. Perfect. And in that way, if you can't get to everything, I'll email you response. How are we all doing?
Good.
Good.
Felt good.
That is what yoga is supposed to do for us all. Make us feel good, right?
Yeah, that felt incredible.
It did.
I'm so glad. Does anybody have any questions for me about anything I mentioned or shared? It was really more practice focused today.
I don't have any questions. I just really appreciated your modifications and then the encouraging words that you used throughout, where I felt, even if I wasn't doing the hardest one, I still felt successful. And I think that's so important, that no matter where you are that day or that ability, whatever it is, that the words you were using just made me feel great about whatever I was doing, that I was being successful. So I just really appreciated that,
Well,
because
I'm really
I'm
glad
dealing with injuries.
felt
So
good.
sometimes I feel down on myself. So just thank you for that.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, I do. I want all the students who practice with me to go home feeling good and want to come back for more. Anybody else? So I just a couple of statistics that I wrote down, or just some little notes. So we spend a lot of time at work these days. Yeah, a lot of sitting. Like I think about all the people who work for Google in Silicon Valley and how they're just there for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, right? And then they go home and they binge watch Netflix because they have, you know, nothing else to do at that point. They've worked for so long. So there was this report that came out several years back where sitting is the new smoking, right? And what they really mean by that is that when you're practicing yoga, you're really opening up this lung area, right? And you're able to get fuller, deeper. You notice I spent a lot of time on this kind of stuff today, right? Not as much time in the lower body. We could have gone there, but because there's this epidemic of just crunching and hunching, slouching, we're not able to breathe. And we take that into our sleep at night.
And there's, I mean, I think I read that 80% of these sleep is not breathe properly. So you want to be able to open up the airways and increase circulation and fresh blood throughout the body into the brain so that we feel more alert, more focused, more joyful. Very important stuff in my book. Most people, when they reach a certain age, have had back issues as well. Right? Yoga is so great for the back. So one of my former instructors would say, you're as old as your spine is flexible. So if your spine is jammed up, you don't feel good. You're going to feel kind of old and grumpy. Right? So if your spine is tall and you're able to breathe, and you can great posture and have a little ooch here from option at your desk all day, you're going to feel really good. Go out into the world, interact with your family, with your loved ones. It is all over. One thing I would say too is that if you're working with clients or you sit at desk today, get up every 15 minutes or every half hour, but maybe spend 5 minutes at the end of every hour and pick 1 or 2 or 3 stretches. And do those stretches for maybe 3 times. I mean, this sort of thing, right? Or here. This, you can even get to that. That's great. Right? Even if you were able to do those 2 things 3 times each at 10:55, then maybe you can open yourself up to something else at 11. And then you get little bite-sized yoga sessions throughout the day that keep your energy, your focus up.
Can you mute everyone again? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh,
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
Gosh,
me too.
crazy.
You're in and out, mostly out.
I didn't mute you all, so it's so weird that because it even says, oh. All right, can you hear me? Okay, good. All right, so it's 2:08, guys. So I think we need to go. If I don't have your email address, I can't send you the PowerPoint. So please send me your email address in the chat. If somehow or other this doesn't work out, the person you need to speak with at NETA is Darcy. And I believe her last name is Revier, Revier. And her email address is Darcy, DARCI, @netafit.org.
Can you put that in the chat?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me that. So let's see. Sometimes the chat is here and sometimes it isn't. Here we go.
So while you're saying that, I just wanted to say, since you were saying you could only do this for an hour, one thing people might want to do is take the chair yoga class. It was very similar, except with the chair yoga one, it's like you teach other people because it's to teach a chair yoga class, but it's a lot of the same poses that you were doing today. And so that might be useful if somebody wants to do something that's more than an hour.
Good advice. Yeah, so all of this stuff that I showed you today is stuff that you can do for yourself and you can share with your students if you're a fitness instructor or maybe your family and your friends. All right, guys. So there's a person in the group called Arca Booth, ARCABOOTH. TH, ARCA both. And I don't have your full name, and I'm worried that you're not going to get your certificate unless you change that name to reflect the name you registered with. So
I tried changing it and for whatever reason, it's not reflecting, but I did get my name and email in the chat there.
okay, great. Thank you so much. I am not going to log out of this. You guys can go ahead and run like the wind if you would like, but I'm going to go through and look at the chats really quickly and get the email addresses for the people that I don't have them for, and I'll send you the PowerPoint. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Have
you
a
so much.
good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, thank you so much. Sorry I was late. I was having computer issues and had to update, and then my
I know the
computer.
feeling. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, you guys.
Oh, Rhonda, what was the name of that class?
NETA offers a chair yoga class. It might be under senior yoga.
Okay.
I took it last year during FitFest. So it might be senior yoga, but it was a chair yoga class.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It was great.
All right.
But
I'll
it's
look
like
forward.
it's like an all day thing. So because
Okay.
it's kind of a certification too if you want to um teach it. You can do it as a certification and take the exam. So
Okay.
so it's longer, but
Okay.
you get a lot out of it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Oh,
Okay,
you're
bye.
in Northern Virginia. I'm just down in Richmond. I saw
Yeah,
you.
I saw that.
So, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. All right.
Bye.
So, names of the list. So Rhonda Bernstein was there. So ZHABOTINSKA, and she was Diana VZ at mac.com. Josh BELDHUIZEN. So he's J Veld 9 at gmail.com. We have Victoria Tibbetts. Tibbetts. B Tibbetts 918 at gmail.com. Oh. See Josh. He's in there. Camera. I don't know if he has a camera. Mm.